The SR manuscript, 2 years of writing and research on the topic of semen retention. If you wish to physically own the works of the ancient archives, then this book is for you. Often a man practicing semen retention will change the dynamic of their relationships with others. It is generally the case that potential suitors become more attracted and platonic or competitive relationships become more strained. Often, those of the same sex will become more combative and aggressive towards you. Those of the opposite sex, potential love interests in particular, tend to become more attracted. What we are talking about here is a form of sexual magnetism, and thinking in terms of magnetism will make this easier to understand. A magnet, when strengthened in power, will undergo 2 major shifts. 1. The surrounding negative poles will generate more attraction. 2. The surrounding positive poles will create more repulsion. In humans, the poles of sexual magnetism represent the masculine and the feminine, that is, the man and the woman. Semen retention will strengthen one's masculine attributes and thus create a stronger force of attraction from feminine poles, simultaneously repelling the other competing positive poles, that is, the masculine entities in his vicinity. Just as 2 positive poles on a magnet repel and a positive paired with a negative pole attracts. Your increased masculinity and magnetic attraction is in direct competition with the other masculine poles in your shared space. We say competition here because a man's biological imperative is to procreate, and thus the surrounding attractors could potentially hinder this imperative. The increased male competition affects his ability to secure the best possible mate. When one counterpart becomes more valuable, the surrounding counterparts lose value, or at least perceived value. Therefore, your increase in magnetism can be seen as a direct threat to the male competition around you. There is a very real, unspoken pecking order that exists in all social groups. This pecking order is governed by attention. When we see someone we perceived as below us on the social scale suddenly become more attractive or higher in value, we instinctually feel we must put them in their place. A so-called beta male acting alpha will anger most men who perceive their own self above that person. Most men will have the instinctual urge to shut them down and remind them of their lowly position on the social ladder. People deemed higher up on the ladder have more of a stake in the hierarchy's existence and thus make more efforts to enforce its rule. This is perhaps an inbuilt mechanism that helps regulate the social order of things. Such behaviors occur throughout the animal kingdom. It is most easily seen in the behavior of monkeys when interacting amongst their own social group. If a man was higher value from day one, then they will often be looked up to as a leader and befriended by platonic same-sex acquaintances, as association with them can only boost their own value and opportunities. Thus we make attempts to create an alliance. We are opportunistic creatures, and the motives here are purely self-serving. You are sharing a lake with a few fishermen every day, hunting for a limited number of fish, and then all of a sudden, one fisherman buys a world-class rod and lure that far outperforms your own rod. This can only be perceived as a threat. That is why you will feel those around you, especially of the same sex, trying to bring you down or become particularly aggressive towards you. That is why on semen retention you should anticipate this kickback and not take personally the reaction taking place. Much of social relationships are akin to chemical reactions. It is much less to do with your choice of words than it is to do with the visceral feeling people feel when they are around you. In the realm of popularity and relationships, losing semen is losing social value. Much of one's social value is determined by the strength and health of their organism. Attractiveness is often seen as an indicator of general health. Your identity as seen by others is much like an avatar in a game. You are a character with a whole long list of traits, skills, strengths, and weaknesses. Other people must carefully select who to associate and share their energy with. They must also choose who to avoid. In terms of social value, most people are aiming up or across. Almost no one is aiming down. If your avatar's value is low, people will pick up on this and not wish to associate with you. Of course, this won't be verbalized. They will avoid your presence and avoid interacting with you. Attention is the currency of a social group. Perhaps the number one marker of value is facial attractiveness. Your face represents much about your genetic disposition, your mental state, and your physical health. It is the front interface of your whole identity. It is the cover of a book that you are deciding on whether to read or not. Regardless of the face you inherited, over time, as Orwell says, you will develop the face that you deserve. The face also reflects one's life force, the ingredients that humans are most attracted to. An improved state of health should also lead to an improved looking face. Various studies have found a connection between health and facial attractiveness. Our level of facial attractiveness is not static. Throughout our life it fluctuates, with the younger years having more relation to genetic stock and the older years having more relation to environment, character, diet, and so on. We may be born of lesser or greater genetic stock and thus have differing levels of facial attractiveness than the next person. But as we make our ascent into adulthood and middle age, much of our life experience, habits, and morals have an immense effect on how our face is molded and developed. Natural habits, natural thoughts, natural eating will bring harmony to the features, so that even one with imperfectly shaped features can create a harmonious and attractive balance in his face. A face is more than just the genetic stock with which you were given. It encompasses one's mind and thoughts, one's character and disposition. The look of confidence which can be seen in the face is not directly a product of the facial features alone. It is largely a product of the brain that is translating that mind state into the face. Confidence is hugely attractive to the opposite sex. It is seen in the face, yet much of it is developed from thoughts. Thoughts and mental disposition mold the face and influence facial attractiveness a lot more than most people know or are willing to accept. Those practicing semen retention and avoidance of lust are no longer entertaining their minds with lewd or immoral thoughts. Such thoughts always manifest themselves into the face over time. Those that continually dwell in thoughts of perversion and depravity will eventually be betrayed by their own appearance. This applies not only to sexual thoughts, but thoughts of a negative, selfish, or destructive nature. These physical manifestations of perverted thought are picked up on by others. When we sense it in someone, we usually describe it as him being creepy or that something is off about him. This is the label you too will attract if your mind is steeped in such thoughts. Your thoughts are not as well hidden as you think, and people will not want to associate with those they perceive as creepy. Get a hold of your own thoughts. Become a moral person. Develop a clean mind. As your moral fibers strengthen, the quality of goodness inside of you will increase. People will begin to feel it too, almost palpably, that there is a special something within you, something about you. The quality of goodness. Of course, the aim here is not to be perceived of as good. The aim is to be good, to genuinely care about other people around you in this life, to feel empathy for others around you, to take care of and love those that you are assigned to in this life. We should understand that hurting others is akin to hurting ourselves, a spirit of cooperation rather than combat. Much of the modern world will try and convince you that this is not true. You will envy over the rich lifestyles, you will lust after women, or be goaded into hating this group or that group, ultimately forgetting you are all humans trying to live life and get by. If you meet someone that hates you, and you most certainly will at some stage in life, keep in mind they are subscribed to this mentality of us versus them. They are likely deeply dissatisfied with their own existence and place in life. A person who feels satisfied with their life doesn't usually get the burning desire to hate on other people. Receiving hate often invites us to shoot that hate back. This is where we suffer. If you feel the urge to return hate, then you are getting sucked into the hate machine and you have lost. You're overvaluing their unstable emotional opinion. You are validating their brain sickness. Those that make you mad are successfully absorbing energy from your soul, much like a succubus absorbs sexual energy. Remember, a lion doesn't concern itself with the opinion of sheep. None of it matters. You have much more important things to focus your attention on than some emotional being projecting their unhappy life onto you. Remember that goal you have? This hateful energy is trying to interrupt and sidetrack you from achieving success. Don't let the hate in. Laugh at its failed attempt to elicit a response from you. In the same way that you are avoiding sexual desire, avoid the desire to hate. The best approach is to laugh and get on with things. There is nothing serious about it. No matter how serious they try to make their hate towards you, simply reject it. Do not take anyone seriously who has the energy to hate on you or others. Feel some empathy for their toxic condition and move on to your next important task. Hate is a poison to the mind. It is offered to you. Do not drink it. Strongly reject it. Their hateful, poisoned mind will not infect yours. And really, their hate has nothing to do with the real you. It is just a projection of themselves, a reaction to what they think you represent, and a way to try and validate their own sense of identity and worth. The you that exists in their mind is a totally different creation to the you that is actually existing. They don't need to know that. Whatever they say, let them say it, and then excuse yourself from their presence. You are retaining your sexual energy to carry out an important purpose in this world. A sexual retainer harnesses a lot more energy than the average human, and thus wields a lot more power into the world. Due to this fact, your work here on Earth will likely be highly impactful. It may even affect hundreds, thousands, if not millions of people. You do not have the time or energy to waste on a single human suffering from a toxic hate condition. Move on.